Hi, everyone. I know it's really late, and I've been called upon to speak when I think your patience must be running very low. So I heard Manjari. I've seen her in GE, and I have to say that, according to me, general councils are extremely important for any business. When I was studying in US, and we had a little bit of practical experience, we saw that no business house, and I literally mean that, ever moved or had a meeting without their general counsel. That's how they plan their business with the GC, so that in future they can, if there is any dispute, they know which side they stand. So the role of GC is really important. When I joined law practice, which is way back 42 years ago, I think there were just about a handful of women practicing lawyers. Today, it's a pleasure to see that the ratio is, according to me, about 35% at least. When I joined law, somebody took me to one of the top senior advocates, and they asked which field should she specialize in. And the senior advocate said, well, her clients will decide which field she will specialize in. So, but I have to say, since I see a lot of young lawyers, that what I have experienced, not only my personal experience, but my peers, the first 15 years or so are very tough. And the entire law that you learn, the basics that you learn, are, I think, till you are 30, 35. After that, it's just building. So, since this event is for under 40, I would recommend very strongly that young lawyers should spend a lot of time in reading, attend courts, even if you are not having a matter. Just see how senior lawyers, how they argue, how they approach, what's their temperament in court, and try and learn from there. The challenge today, I started my own practice in a little 2-member firm in 1987. I was 4 years in the bar. I had nobody in my family who was a lawyer. Subsequent to me, of course, my younger brother, his children, everybody is coming to this profession. But I was the first one in the family to take up this profession because I actually rebelled. My whole family was in teaching history, political science, economics, and I wanted to do something different so that I'm not recognized as their daughter or as their niece. So I took up law. When I was studying law, I have to tell you, I found it very, very dry. I went to Columbia. I was forced to go because my parents said, we'll kick you out of the house if you don't go and study abroad. So I managed to get admission. And when I was studying, I actually went to School of Journalism and picked up a form because I was finding law very boring and dry. But I have to say that today, once I came into practice, I can't today dream of doing anything else except law. So the practice, the challenges, I also have to say to you that if I were to start law today, I probably would not have reached where I have if I started today. Because I think practicing law is far more difficult today because of the new challenges which include competitiveness. There are a lot of now marketing gimmicks that have come up. And therefore, these are the information technology is probably the better part of it. But you have to be ready for these challenges. And you have to, I would still say that there is no other alternative if you want to be a good lawyer to hard work, which means not only working on your cases, but as I said, reading law, which is the most, to my mind, which is the most important thing. Because if you are up to that level of knowing what's going on around you, you can meet any matter or any challenge that comes to you. But I also want to tell you that just reading law is not good enough to be a good lawyer. You must have other interests, whether it be reading, fiction, general knowledge, sports, everything helps. Because then you are a more rounded personality. In fact, I have to say to you that I personally am not in favor of this 5-year course, to be very honest, because I do feel that if you take an undergraduate course and then do law, your horizon is slightly wider and your choice of doing law is more firm in your mind. Today what is happening is that after school, at least when I was, I didn't do 12 of course, I did 11th, I was not sure what I wanted to do. So I'm not sure how many people after doing 12th, another 1 year, are sure what they want to do. But 5 years seems to have become the norm. So I would say to you that when you are studying 5 years, once you start practicing, your all-round development, your general knowledge of politics, sports, everything helps you to become a better lawyer. All the good lawyers, if you see, the top lawyers, senior advocates, if you see, have had varied interests apart from law. So that is it's challenging to find that time, but I think it's very important. I was actually told, I got inspired by Manchurian, that's how I'm speaking, but I was actually told to speak on bilateral investment treaty arbitrations, which I will in 5 minutes because I know that everybody is looking forward to many other speeches that come. So bilateral investment treaty arbitrations, as some of you would know, are treaties entered into by two countries to protect investments made in their own country. India actually had about 83 treaties, but they got two major awards against them. One was White Industries, which was a very small amount, and the other was the Vodafone case, where luckily I was involved. And India, as usual, having two big awards against them, terminated all treaties. What is the rationale behind a bilateral investment treaty? The rationale behind it is that you, as a country, if you have a treaty with US, you think that American investment, when it comes to India, will feel more confident of coming to India because they are protected from arbitrary actions. Now, why is a bilateral investment treaty very important for developing countries? Is because you need foreign direct investment. Now, foreign direct investment, I don't mean FPI or the Reserve Bank exchange, but I mean investment in those who set up industries or those who acquire and then build on them. For an economy to grow, it's extremely important to have capital. So, foreign capital is extremely important if India wants its economy to grow, because our savings are not very high. Government ratio of tax to its budget is also low, although we are fighting the government all the time, but the fact is that it's one of the lowest. It's about 8 to 10%, whereas many countries have 15 to 17%. So for us to get capital for infrastructure development, for industries to develop, we need foreign direct investment. Also remember, many countries like Sri Lanka and all go for debts, go for loans, then they have to repay those loans. Now foreign direct investment gets you capital, gets you jobs, gets you advanced technology, and it's not a debt. So you're not to repay anything. So that's the rationale behind these treaties. So India today, unfortunately, has only 3 bilateral investment treaties because India thinks it's a big market and nobody can afford, no country can afford to avoid it. Unfortunately, that's how we fall in a trap. In fact, the recent economic survey shows that there has been a decline in foreign direct investment from $42 billion to $26.5 billion. Now, how do we increase our foreign direct investment? There have been a lot of questions whether bilateral investment treaties actually, is there empirical data that it helps in bringing in investment? I would give just one example. When Jet Airways was getting money about 12, 13 years ago from UAE, UAE insisted on a bilateral investment treaty before they could put in the money. So we signed a quick one, which has got terminated. Today we have 3 only, that's UAE, which is a new one, which says you must first come to domestic courts and then only you can go for arbitration. Then we have with Brazil, which has no arbitration. And we have with Belarus, where also you have to first do domestic. What I want to remind the people who are making policy is, these 3 countries are typical where Indian capital is going. If you are, not going to protect Indian capital, what are they going to face in countries like UAE and Belarus or Brazil? Because UAE and Belarus are not known for their rule of law. And therefore, I would say to you that Indian policy makers must not only think of FDI that is coming in, but must also today, because so much capital is going out, how to protect that capital, they must think of that also. So I see a lot of buzzers and I will stop short. I only want to say that parliamentary committees have been set up over the years who have said that there should be more bilateral investment treaties. But somehow our policy makers are not really listening to them. And I think it needs a re-look, not only for FDI, but to protect your capital, which is going out. Thank you.